Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Nahayanam Namaskritya Naham Shaiva Nahodamam Devim Sarvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiyayat. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana, and to Narayana, she is the supremest human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and until Srila Vyasadevji also. So we are reading from the third canto, entitled Status Quo. After creation and second creation, we have status quo. And we are reading from the third chapter, the Lord passed them out of Vrindavan. I'm going to drink. And we are on text 16. One word at a time, Sanskrit word. Evam.
Evam.
Sanshintya.
Sanshintya.
Bhagavan.
Bhagavan.
Swarajye.
Swarajye.
Stapya.
Stapya.
Dharmajam.
Dharmajam.
Nandayam.
Nandayam.
Nandayamasa.
Masa.
Surida.
Surida.
Sadunam. Vartma.
Vartma.
Darshayan.
Varshayan.
Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam.
Stapya Dharmajam.
Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Udinam Vatma Darshayam. Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam. Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Sadunam Vatma Darshayam. Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam.
Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam.
Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Sadunam Darshayam.
Evam Samshintya Bhagavan.
Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam.
Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam.
Nandayamasa Suvidam.
Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Sadhunam Varshayan.
Sadunam Vatma Darshayam.
Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Evam Samshitya Bhagavan.
Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam.
Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam.
Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Nandayam Asa Suvidam.
Sadhunam Bhagavad Darshayan.
Sadunam.
Varshayan.
Evam Sanchintya Bhagavan.
Evam Samshitya Bhagavan. Swaraje Stapya Dharmajam. Nandayam Asa Suvidam. Anyone would like to chant online?
Evam Sanchintya Bhagavan
Evam Samchintya Bhagavan
Svarajeshtapya Dharmajam
Sarvajestapya Dharmajam
Nandayam Asa Suridha
Namdayam Asa Suvidha
Sadhunam Padmadarshayam
Sadhu Namakashayam. Evam
Evam.
Das
Das.
Sanchintya,
Sanchintya.
thinking within himself.
Thinking within himself.
Bhagavan,
Bhagavan.
the personality of Godhead,
Personality of Godhead.
Swaraji,
Swaraj.
in his own kingdom.
In his own kingdom.
Stapya,
Start.
and studying, installing. Dharmajam,
Dharmajam.
Maharaj Yudhishthir,
Maharaj Yudhishthira.
Nandayam,
Nandayam.
Nandayamasa,
Nandayam. Son.
Laden, Surida,
Surya.
the friends,
The friends.
Sadhuna
Sadhu.
of the saints,
Of the saints.
Vatma,
Vartma.
the past,
The path.
Darshayan,
Darshanan.
by indicating.
Indicate.
Translation. Lord Sri Krishna, thus thinking to himself, established Maharaj Yudhishthira in the position of supreme control of the world in order to show the ideal of administration on the path of piety. There is no purport, so I'm going to go through text 17. Uttarayam Drita Puro Vamsa Swadvabhimanyuna Savaidonyastra Samplusta Punar Bhagavata Drita. Uttarayam unto Uttara, Rita conceived, Puro of Puru, Vamsha descendant, Sadhu Abhimanyuna, by the hero Abhimanyu, by certainly, Drauni Astra, by the weapon of Drauni, the son of Drona, Samplusta, being burnt, Puna again, for the second time, Bhagavata, by the personality of Godhead, Drita, was protected. Translation. The embryon of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara, his wife, was burned by the weapon of the son of Drona, but later he was again protected by the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The embryonic body of Parikshit, which was in formation after Uttara's pregnancy by Abhimanyu, the great hero, was burned by the Brahmastra of Ashvatam. But the second body was given by the Lord within the womb, and thus the descendant of Puru was saved. This incident is a direct proof that the body and the living entity, the spiritual spark, are different. When the living entity takes shelter in the womb of a woman through the injection of the semen of a man, there is emulsification of the man's and the woman's discharges, and thus a body is formed the size of a pea, gradually developing into a complete body. But if the developing embryo is destroyed in some way or other, the living entity has to take shelter in another body or in the womb of another woman. This particular living entity was selected to be the descendant of Maharaj Puru or the Pandavas, was not an ordinary living entity, and by the superior will of the Lord, he was destined to be the successor to Maharaj Yudhishthira. Therefore, when Ashvatam destroys the embryon of Maharaj Parikshit, the Lord, by his own internal potency, enter in the womb of Uttara, by his plenary portion, just to give audience to the would-be Maharaj Parikshit, who was in great danger. By his appearance within the womb, the Lord encouraged the child and gave him complete protection in a new body by his omnipotency. By his power of omnipresence, he was present both inside and outside of Uttara and other members of the Pandava family. Om Jnana Timiram Dasya Jnana Jala Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamupakadamayam Dadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunattam Vitam Tam Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Chaitanya Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Shah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusute Devi Pranamami Agriye Pansha Kalpa Tarubhyacha Kripa Sindhu Vyayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Pastyachate Jatarine. Hare Krishna. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, entitled The Status Quo, the third chapter, the Lord passed time out of Vrindavan, and we are reading from 10:16 and 17, and the translation to both verses is: Lord Sri Krishna, thus speaking to himself, established Maharaj Parikshit in the position of the supreme control of the world, in order to choose the ideal of administration on the path of piety. The embryon of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara, his wife, was burned by the weapon of the son of Drona, but later he was again protected by the Lord. So, Hare Krishna, we are hearing from Uddhava. Uddhava is a pure devotee of the Lord who met Vidura. And just, he has been following his train of thought, speaking about Krishna. And of course, the ideal situation for a devotee is to be engaged in speaking about Krishna. So a devotee is joyful to be in the situation of being in that engagement. And because we are a follower of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya, we are encouraged to bless ourselves in those situations where we get to speak about Krishna. So we want to arrange our lives in such a way that we will speak about Krishna as much as possible. So Vidura, he was really happy to speak about Krishna. He spoke about different attribute, quality of Krishna, different pastime coming in different order, like not necessarily very linear. in Uddhava in the previous chapter. And in this chapter, it's like really focusing on what's happened after he left Vrindavan. And the last few verses, he was just speaking about the Lord speaking. So Vidura is speaking about the Lord speaking, and the Lord speaking after the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And the Lord thinking, okay, well, after that's happened, that's okay, all the burden of the world is taken away by the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all those kings have been killed, and then, but there is something else needed to be done. And that something else is going to be even more painful and a burden of love for Mother Earth. And that other thing is to withdraw, like completely withdraw it, not only his pastime and himself, but like all his descendants, all his family members. And then Vidura said, and the Lord was thinking, it's interesting, like Uddhava said. So I guess when Krishna was speaking to him, he told him what he was speaking about, unless Uddhava has the power to see in the mind of Krishna, not sure. But in verse 17, he said, and Shri Krishna was thus thinking to himself. So he thought to himself, like, okay, now it's time to establish Maharaj Yudhishthira as a king. Why? Because it was important at the time to have an example of a perfect king. And in 2022, we are still speaking about Maharaj Yudhishthira. And we get to really understand, and that's I think for every devotees of the modern world to understand what's a leader. Then we have the example of Maharaj Yudhishthira. What's a leader? What's the quality of a leader? What is leading, and how is one empowered by the Lord as an instrument of the Lord to lead not simply a country, even a big country like America, but the entire world. So Yudhishthira Maharaj was established as emperor of the entire world by Sri Krishna himself to demonstrate what it means to be leading people, governing the entire world in a path of piety, to really lead everyone, not for the sake, because right now it's like really difficult when I'm thinking of like, where are the leaders leading? And it's really unclear. On one hand, it seems to lead to like increasing the sense gratification of the citizen, increasing their comfort in some ways. And on the other hand, there is so much plundering, exploitation, and really not caring about the citizens. So it's really confusing and bewildering to just try to absorb ourselves in understanding, okay, what is a leadership leading towards? Like it's confusing, bewildering, because it doesn't seem to be caring while it is still increasing sense gratification. And of course, there is absolutely no sense of leading towards in the path of piety. So we can really meditate on that. That's I started by saying the goal of the Vaishnava is to be speaking about Krishna and find situation to be speaking about Krishna. Also, our goal is to put ourselves in situation that we remember Krishna. So thinking of the leadership of the world is a way to remember Krishna, and there are so many ways to remember Krishna. And then next come Uddhava speaking about Maharaj Parikshit in a room of Uttara. And I was thinking sometime when Sukadev Goswami speaks, because he speaks to Maharaj Parikshit, he said, I'm your grandfather, or I'm your mother, or he speaks directly to him because he's in dialogue. But here Sukadev Goswami is recalling something that was told by Uddhava. So he's not doing that. And it was interesting for me to hear, like to imagine Maharaj Parikshit sitting there and listening to a narration about his birth in a third person way. So I was just it's interesting to see that. So the story of Maharaj Parikshit, Parikshit means inquirer. So he had that name, Parikshit, the inquirer, because he had a very powerful experience while in the womb of his mother. Very powerful experience while in the womb of his mother. So after the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the son of Dronacharya was very jealous of the Pandava, because even his own father, Dronacharya, kind of favored Arjuna over him. You know, it's like my daddy is favoring someone else over me. So he had a lot of enmity towards the Pandava, a lot of jealousy, a lot of envy. And of course, that's what's driving all our sinful activities and all our demoniac activities, our activities that separated from us from Krishna, is envy. So he was very, very envious of the Pandava, Ashvatam, and during the war of Kurukshetra, even killed the 5 sons of Draupadi at night. During the night, he went inside the tents and killed them all at night, like a coward. And then, so he didn't die. We want to wonder why he didn't die on the battlefield, but the story is not told. Maybe it's told in the Mahabharata, but I didn't read the Mahabharata. So Ashvatam was still alive after 600 million soldiers were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, including his father. And he was angry, more angry. And so he sent a Brahmastra weapon to kill the ire of the Pandava, the last ire of the Pandava, because they were also the one were killed, which was carried by Uttara. Uttara was the wife of Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu was the son of Arjuna. And Abhimanyu, he was so heroic that when he was on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, there was 5 of the greatest warriors of the time that attacked him all at the same time. And he gave them a good fight. He gave them such a good fight. And at the end, he was killed. So he was a great hero, like he's described as a great hero here. So Uttara, she was without a husband. And she was carrying the last ire of the Pandava. And there was no chance that she will have another pregnancy. So that pregnancy was so important to continue the Kuru-Vamsi, the dynasty of the Kurus, and to establish the next king. That will be Maharaj Parikshit. When he will be ready to be king, then Maharaj Yudhishthira will enthrone him, giving the baton. Okay, it's your turn now. And yeah, so Maharaj Parikshit as a baby.
All right, so
as an
why
embryo.
did you type that number in? Because I was going to send her.
So I'm going to go back to my training. So Ashvatam was so angry that he sent a Brahmastra weapon. And Brahmastra weapon is like a nuclear weapon, like what the American threw on Japanese. There's only one who have done that, really.
A new place. And I'm gonna type in your.
Yeah. So he's the only one who ever did that. They are American, even so they're so critical of maybe others doing that. We did it first. Anyway, that's just a side point. And at the time, now that if they throw a nuclear weapon, they have no control. They have no control what damage it will do. and how wide the damage and for how long the damage is going to be. I was in Hiroshima and I saw the damage. How many years after?
45.
45 years later, there were still people who were looking ugly and deformed, and because the radiation stayed for a long time there. And so it was, it was very damaging and uncontrolled, irresponsible action. And at the time of the Pandava, the weapons were delivered by mantra. The Dronacharya, who was a teacher of the Pandavas and of his son Ashvatam, he was teaching the art of weaponry to mantras. And so they were able to be very, very precise. So Ashvatam knew that art, he learned it from Dronacharya, to send a Brahmastra to the womb of a woman, because Uttara wasn't even killed. Uttara wasn't even killed, so how precise those weapons were. And Uttara, when she saw the Brahmastra coming at her, she ran to Krishna. Please, Krishna, help me. Govinda, hey, Krishna, help me. And so she ran towards the chariot. It was a moment where Krishna decided to go back to Dwarka. In fact, he was sitting on his chariot, ready to go back to Dwarka. And she ran to him like that. And then Krishna, he expanded himself as a very small little Vishnu form. And also he enters the womb of Uttara. And Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he said, this is, and what he did is like, he gave a new body to the embryo. So there was an embryo in the womb of Uttara, and that embryo, the body's embryo bodies, the body made of those liquids, as Prabhupada said, it doesn't get emulsification. The cement, there's an emulsification of the man's and a woman's discharge. So that emulsification that starts with a pea size of liquid put together, then it grows. It grows because it's alive. It's alive because there's a soul that's in that pea. That pea wouldn't have the potential to expand or to grow if it wasn't for the soul that's present in that pea. So Krishna enters the womb of Uttara, and he destroyed. He stopped the weapon, and also he gave back another body to baby Parikshit Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is a proof. This is a proof that the soul is indestructible. And I was a few months ago, almost a year and a half ago, I got to receive some Brahmastra radiation and nuclear radiation in my body, and I was every day I was going to receive nuclear radiation on my body. And because of my experience in Hiroshima, because of my experience as a young hippie protesting against, Chernobyl and so many nuclear things that were present in my life, I was extremely scared, fearful. And it's interesting, I spoke with other people who got radiation and said, oh no, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't do anything. And I guess I was so conscious, and also I made so much research on the internet about the side effect of radiation, which is, they are terrible. They are terrible. Like 5 years after you receive the radiation, your teeth fall down, and it's just like so many ugly stuff that because of radiation, they don't die, they stay in the body. So I was extremely scared every single day. Driving, I didn't want to go, and I pushed myself. I went, and what helped me was to think of Prahlad Maharaj, because Prahlad Maharaj, he completely knew that he was indestructible. He completely knew that the soul cannot be cut by any weapon. It cannot be crushed by an elephant. It cannot be boiled even in boiling oil. It cannot, it cannot be poisoned by snakes, because his father, Hiranyakashipu, tried to kill him in all those ways. And Prahlad Maharaj wasn't scared at all. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid. He knew his real identity. He knew how to live from the self alone, to really live from that place of being aware of who I am as a self. So when his father did all those things, he wasn't scared. He knew that his soul is connected to Krishna, glorifying Krishna, remembering Krishna, and that in the oil or in a pit of snakes or under the foot of an elephant, that's going to be continue to be true, that there was no impediment, no material impediment to his devotional service. So remembering that helped me to know that the radiation is not going to do anything to me. The radiation cannot do anything to me. The radiation won't do anything to me. And whatever the radiation could do to me, that's probably part of the journey anyway. And that was helping me during the trip. Usually that's a meditation I will have during the drive between Alachua and the hospital. That's a meditation I will have. And it was so soothing, so deeply soothing to remember that. And then I will go under the machine, and then I will hold my japa like that, and really hold my japa and praying to Tulsi Devi, and really, taking advantage that, okay, here I have a challenge. Let me remember Krishna. Let me remember Tulsi Devi, like she's so healing. Let me remember Prahlad Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj, he said that, I really like that part also in the purport, that he was not an ordinary soul. He was, of course, he wasn't an ordinary living entity. He it was not simply an ordinary living entity entering the soul of an ordinary living entity. He was very special, and it said, Prabhupada said, the particular living entity was selected to be the descendant of Maharaj Puru or the Pandala was not an ordinary living entity. By the superior will of the Lord, he was destined to be the successor of Maharaj Yudhishthira. It just gave like some distance, some perspective. At least when I heard that sentence, it gave perspective of the living entities, how we exist eternally, and our individuality, and when we are pure soul, like Maharaj Parikshit, that soul, then we are chosen. We have a particular mission. We have a particular selection. Like that soul was particularly selected to be part of that pastime, by the Lord for us. That's okay. That the Lord, like there is a system to select a particular soul to come and be the descendant of the cause, to be the emperor of the world. And it's not another soul that's supposed to do that. And because it wasn't another soul that was supposed to do that, the Lord had to interfere and intervene to make sure that this particular selected living entity became the emperor of the world, Maharaj Parikshit, the great emperor Maharaj Parikshit, who ruled at the beginning of Kali Yuga. Without his ruling, I don't know where Kali Yuga will be. It's difficult to even imagine how degraded this age could be if Maharaj Parikshit didn't rule. So the Lord and the whole system is that every individual soul have a purpose, a mission, and a place in the universe. And of course, the individual souls tend to, not most of the individual souls, tend to be connected with Krishna and serve Krishna and remember Krishna and speak about Krishna and worship Krishna and pray to Krishna. But then there is a small percentage of the soul, very small percentage. Prabhupada said about 10%. About 10% of the soul are rebellious. And those souls that are rebellious, not that they don't have a special relationship with Krishna, not that they are not potentially able to be selected for a special mission for Krishna. However, because they choose to be away from Krishna, they choose to be envious of Krishna, be like, why is he in the center? Why is he in the center? And I can see that some people, I'm of course within myself, it's more subtle, so I don't see it as well. But some people, they really say, well, why is it all about Krishna? Why it's all about him, offering everything to him? Why is it all about him, like everybody should serve him? Why is it about him? And it's very on the surface, like, oh, wow, yeah, I heard that we are envious of the soul. And when I hear this kind of comment, it comes home for me. That's how we think. Why it's all about him? Why all the girls are for him? All the flower for him, all the nice preparation for him, everything for him. Why is that? I want it to be for me. Should be all for me. Offer me flower and respect and offering me honor and all that shouldn't be for Krishna. So 10% of the soul are like that. And so by choosing separation from Krishna, they're also choosing separation from that special selection. They are choosing to enter under a different rules and regulation until the rule of material nature. Until they are choosing to enter a mechanical system where it's no more about being selected by the Lord for a specific mission. Some people, like New Age people, say, oh yes, we are all, descending here because the Lord wants us to descend here because we have a special mission to serve the earth or something. No, we are here because we have chosen to be away, and then there is a mechanical system. The material energy is mechanical, okay. For every action, there is a reaction. And whatever we accept in this world, the body, our field of activity, our circumstances, everything is according to our previous choices, how we use our free will. And of course, at one point or another, in that journey of circulating through all the species of life, 8,400,000 species of life, at one point or another, we are fortunate enough to get in contact with the pure devotee, because the pure devotee is selected. So I was expanding on what Srila Prabhupada says, and I was expanding on Srila Prabhupada being selected too. And it was a special soul, unique, special, individual soul, selected by Lord Sri Krishna to come on earth in the modern age of Kali Yoga to deliver all the fallen soul of this modern age. And that's also a meditation, something we can keep in our mind to think about how when the Lord feels desire for us, like he was feeling desire for a pious king, Yudhishthir. He was thinking, okay, let's me enthrone that king. He was thinking, okay, like I need to select the perfect ruler, the perfect soul that's going to enter the body of the perfect ruler for to be Maharaj Parikshit. And so he protected him, he gave him a new body, and then he showed himself to Maharaj Parikshit. It's like the inquirer. All his life, the rest of his life, Maharaj Parikshit is going to look for that image that he got in a womb. In his entire life, he's going to look for that. So when he was cursed to die, right away say, okay, yes, I will. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to hear about Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada is that special soul. Is that special soul that's embodied and took birth from Gaur Mohande and what's the name of his father? Oh, mother, Rajani.
Yeah.
Rajani. So taking birth across the street from the Radha Govinda temple. That's where he came as a baby. He didn't take birth there because Rajani went to her mother and father's house to give birth. That's traditional. But when she came back, the place where baby Abai was living was just across the street from Radha Govinda. There was no chance of him not being away from Krishna. A pure devotee cannot be away from Krishna. So from his childhood, he had Krishna in his household. His father was a very steady pujari. They had deities at home. The mother was worshipping the deities. The father, they were doing arti every day. The mother was cooking every day for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, when he was young, like when he was, I think, 3-year-old, he got typhoid, and there was a big epidemic in India of typhoid, and so many babies were dying, so many children were dying, so many adults were dying. And that's a beautiful pastime, very similar to Maharaj Parikshit in a sense, because 3-year-old Abecha, and he was dying. He was completely dying, and in fact, he became lifeless. And from a place of typhoid, being lifeless means you go down. Your body is not going to survive. And the doctor had said, well, there is no cure, but there is something that some people say works, is to give chicken soup. That some people, they got so much chicken soup that the body, it's protein, that the body kicked in and was able to fight the virus. So the doctor said, that's the only thing I know. I don't know anything else. Also it's an epidemic, so many people die. And I'm not saying that he's going to survive, but try to give him chicken soup. And then a 3-year-old, and the father, Abai Gaur Mohande is a pure devotee of the Lord. Prabhupada described his father as a pure devotee of the Lord. He said, no, I'm not going to give chicken soup to my son. No, I can't. I'm not going to do that. But Rajani, she was a woman of a tender, tender heart. And my son, it was her only son. My son is going to die. I need to do that. I need to do that. I need to do something. Mothers are like that. They feel like I need to do something to save my son. I cannot simply close my eyes and let him die like that. And so, go and they say, okay, let's try that. And let's try that. And so Rajni, she got some chicken soup. They didn't cook it in the house. Some Muslim next door, they made chicken soup for Abai, and they bought it. And Rajni took a spoon and put it in Abai's mouth. It was like that, and he completely refused, a 3-year-old, to swallow the chicken soup because he's a pure devotee. He's not going to eat the result of massacre of chicken. He's not going to eat the result of violence, and he's not going to eat something that's not prashadam. one symptom of a devotee is that he only eats Krishna prasadam. He doesn't put anything else in his mouth because anything else is stealing. It's sinful. Like if I eat something that's not first offered to Krishna, it's like I'm taking something for my gratification for my body, and that doesn't belong to me. So that's the sign of a pure devotee. He will not eat the chicken soup. He will not eat the result of violence, and he will not put anything in his mouth that's not Krishna prasadam. And of course, Abhai's state of being declined, and he became sicker and sicker to a point that he was lifeless. He was dying, and Rajni was crying, please do something, please do something. And his father took the body of Abhai, the lifeless body of Abhai, and he went in front of the deities, his deity at home, and he began to pray. And he didn't pray like, oh, heal my child. He prayed, this is yours. This soul, this living entity, this incarnation of that living entity is yours. It's all yours. Do as you wish to do. And he prayed, he stayed with the Lord, trusting. And all of a sudden, after a night of prayer, little Abhai just woke up. He just woke up and smiled. And he went playing. So we can see from that it's a very similar, there is similarity between Maharaj Parikshit in the womb of Uttara being attacked by the Brahmastra weapon, and Srila Prabhupada being attacked by the typhoid weapon of the material energy. And now the Lord gave a body, he saved Maharaj Parikshit, and he wanted that specific soul with a specific mission to carry on the legacy of the Pandava, the cause of Pandavas, and rule over the earth in order to continue to give piety to us. And similarly, Srila Prabhupada was supposed to continue, that specific soul was supposed to continue to save us, to come to the West and to save all the fallen soul in the West, and continue to do that nowadays in his unmanifested pastimes. So I want to finish by reading a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita, because they are just very beautiful and we can meditate on them every day. And I'm going to read from chapter 2, verse 15. We're going. Let's start by 16. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent there is no endurance, and of the existent there is no cessation. So what doesn't exist doesn't last, and what really exists lasts forever. There is no cessation. These seers have concluded by studying the nature of both. So we can be inquirer like Parikshit Maharaj and study the nature of what's non-existence and what existence. Know that which perverts the body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. So we won't be destroyed. And if by knowing that and by focusing on the self alone, then we are free. Nothing can touch us. Who says like, if you cannot see, you cannot catch me?
Socrates.
Socrates, what's the axiom?
You can't kill me because you can't catch me.
You can kill me because you cannot catch me, you cannot see me.
You can't find me.
Socrates, you cannot find me, yeah. Only the material body of the indestructible, unmeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction, therefore find all this under the Bharata. He who thinks that the living entity is a slayer or that he is slain does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not, nor is slain. For the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, primeval, and is not slain when the body is slain. Oh, Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? As a person put on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly, the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old one and the old and useless one. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can it be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. It is everlasting, all-pervading, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, and unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. So knowing this, we should not grieve for the body. And all our grief, all our envy, our grief, our frustration, our resentments, you name it, it's all due to our identification with the body. Hare Krishna, I'm going to read both verses again, and then we can have comment and discussion. Evam samchitya bhagavan swarajyestatya dharmajam nandayam asa suida sadhunam vartma darshayam uttarayam dritapuro vamsha sadva bhimanyuina Savaidonyastra samplusta unar bhagavata drita. Lord Shri Krishna, thus thinking to himself, established Maharaj Yudhishthira in a position of supreme control of the world in order to show the ideal of administration on the path of piety. The embryon of Puru's descendant, begotten by the great hero Abhimanyu in the womb of Uttara, his wife, was burned by the weapon of the son of Drona, but later he was again protected by the Lord. I imagine Vidura hearing that, being worried, like, Uttara had a baby and he was killed. Oh, but it was saved. Hare Krishna, thank you all for listening. And I invite comments, question, realization, anything you'd like to share at this time.
I much appreciated the emphasis on the distinctiveness of the souls. Distinctiveness of the soul. In the distinctness of the soul, particularly Maharaj Parikshit, and so okay, I never considered that perspective. So okay, so we know Krishna saved his period. He basically, the body of the embryo, the embryonic body was destroyed, so Krishna gave another body, right? So that way the soul stayed in. So okay, so it's a way Krishna protects his period body, Maharaj Parikshit. But I'd never considered the way he presented because this particular soul had a particular mission, a distinctive mission, and it wasn't replaceable. So I never considered that aspect of it. And then similarly, how you make the parallels between Maharaj Parikshit and Srila Prabhupada's and Srila Prabhupada's baby pastimes, childhood pastimes. Yes. Also, the Prabhupada actually wants that you the typhoid, the chicken soup, which he injected. A few years later, there was the beginning of the Hindu-Muslim riots. He was caught in the middle of the riot. He was There was, and there was no linearly logical reason for him to not be killed. But something happened. So I appreciated that connection between these two devotees, 5,000 years apart or so. And then I'm just saying, like, yeah, okay, so Maharaj Parikshit, then he ruled the world for Krishna. Srila Prabhupada was giving us Krishna, a story you and others heard me told. I think of myself growing up, I heard of different like so-called gurus, yoga and this and that. I wasn't into it, but I heard of them, and I heard of Hare Krishna. But if you asked me at 15 years old in 1975 or something, have you ever heard of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? No, I never heard of him. I heard of Hare Krishna. Have you heard of this one? I mean, this Guruji, this
Rajneesh,
Rajneesh,
yeah.
Guru Maharaj.
No, all
Oh
of
yeah, I
them.
heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very significant, and even if we go to today, there's more
Oh,
gurus,
God.
either from the East or with a Western type body, trying to bring something from there's hundreds of them. Okay. And they're all giving themselves. Maybe they're giving, no, it's not me, it's the white light, but no one's satisfied with the white light. We need a person. So they're giving themselves essentially, which kind of sad. So Srila Prabhupada, he made Krishna famous, right? And that's it, Mama. It's the genuine bhakti parampara. They're giving us Krishna, and then yeah, you were saying, we hear complaints, including in our community. Well, everything for Krishna. What about me? Like that. And so, right. And then the irony is, so you're Srila Prabhupada, Maharaj Parikshit, everything, all the riches, all the flowers, everything for Krishna. And it's nothing from, and then that's how they become glorious. That's how we can become glorious. The more it's like everything, then that's the irony, when we become glorious. So I'd like to say, so Prabhupada made Krishna world famous. I mean, it's quite even from so-called material things. Like if someone has an idea, okay, it's a material. Someone made Pepsi Cola famous, whatever. So again, when you and I were born, early 1960s, pretty much no one outside of India heard of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Now, people might have different opinions about it, but just not just millions, billions of people have heard of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So that's Prabhupada, distinctive mission, right? So then, our opportunity and mission is to let the world know about Srila Prabhupada, just as Prabhupada let the world know about Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. Something said that it's interesting because, impersonalism leads to the guru being very famous.
Yeah.
Why? And in a sense, it's a proof that the soul, the individuality of the nature of the soul is to want a personal relationship.
We want personal relationship.
So the most famous gurus
Yeah.
are those who present impersonalism, because there is no competition, like the gurus that present personalism, then there is competition. But the gurus that present impersonalism, there is no competition. They are going to become the center of attention because the nature of the soul is to want relationship and to want personalism. So the personalism is only directed towards the guru. So it's something I never thought about, but it's just obvious. And Srila Prabhupada is not, like that. And because the personalism of the soul is directed towards where it belongs in relationship to Krishna. And so our role is to really make Srila Prabhupada famous. Right now on YouTube and everywhere, there's so many bogus gurus. And people are really boggling them, like completely swallowing it and following. People will just really give ordinary common sense platitude platitude, you know? No, platitude, you know.
Platitude.
Platitude.
Just like-
Platitude, you know, like, oh yes, we are all happy. We are, you know, like things that are just complete platitude, things that are common, you know, common sense, common thing. But people that just gobble that and feel like, oh, this is so special. We're supposed to be happy together and hold hands. Oh, this is so special. Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
Anyway, that's a little ridiculous. But yeah, our role is to really bring Srila Prabhupada to the forefront of humanity, because he is a real shelter and the one who gives relationship. I'm reading a book, The Bond of Love, and it's a series of a woman who shares their experience with Srila Prabhupada. And most of them, they saw a picture of Srila Prabhupada, or they heard of Srila Prabhupada, or they read books about Srila Prabhupada. And right away they thought, oh, he's my spiritual master. He's the one who's going to save me. He's the one I've been looking for all my life. He's the one that I had a calling inside. He's the one who was calling me, without even knowing in which planet Srila Prabhupada was dwelling. They all had those realizations without knowing anything, knowing if Srila Prabhupada was on Earth's planet, on the Mars planet, or on another universe. They were clear. He's the one I want. No. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else would like to share anything? Or what's happening for you now?
These are some good talking points for this evening when we go. We might share some Bhagavad Gita. Tonight, those of us in Gainesville are going to People Park at 5 p.m. to share Harinam, the holy names, and also Srila Prabhupada's books. And it's a chance to make sure that Prabhupada famous and glorify him and share his teachings. So I thought I would mention that. These are good talking points.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah, there was one of those sharing I was reading, I think last night. It's a girl, she went to a festival that was somewhere in Florida, in fact. It was like a big festival, hippie festival, something yoga and bands and whatever. And the devotees were there. They were doing Harinam in a park, like what you're going to do tonight. And Damayanti and many of you are going to come. And and Vishnu Swami was there. And she said like, he will not stop speaking about Srila Prabhupada. And just by hearing from Vishnu Swami about Srila Prabhupada, she completely fell in love with Srila Prabhupada. And in fact, it took many, many years before she even saw Prabhupada, and she never interacted with Prabhupada. She just saw him, because when Srila Prabhupada's movement became so big, then very few people really were in contact with Prabhupada. And then many of the women during Bhagavatam class, when they had an opportunity to at least sit in Bhagavatam class, they were cleaning his apartment or doing so much service that they were not even in Bhagavatam class. So they had sometimes just had a glimpse, but it came many years later for her. And yeah, because our first contact with Srila Prabhupada was hearing someone was completely in love with Srila Prabhupada, speaking about Srila Prabhupada. And that's available for us now. We can, speak about our love for Srila Prabhupada and speak about Srila Prabhupada to stranger in the park. Yeah. Thank you, and Damayanti Prabhu for sharing that. Let's make Srila Prabhupada famous.
I can make more connections. Okay, so one thing, you mentioned, you followed up on my statement about, because the idea is to be God, to want to be God, and then the oneness of everything, and that kind of impersonal mind-body path. Okay, and then because the soul naturally wants relationship, okay, then basically the guru is presenting themselves.
It's a good way to be a famous guru, to preach Mayavadi philosophy.
Yeah. So that's it's a problem with the Vaishnava approach,
Mhm.
because with Vaishnava approach, the idea isn't like, it's not your, and it's an attractive selling point. Just follow this point, you'll get to be God. Whoa. So it's something you'll get to be God. Okay. But then, okay, so but then if someone, let's call this, wants to be a false guru in the Vaishnava approach, the way to do it, the way to do it is because in Vaishnava this actually the guru is regarded and served as good as God, as good as God.
Yeah.
Okay, right now, of course, a genuine guru, Maharaj Prabhupada or Prabhupada, so they take that, they don't take any of the worship for themselves, they're passing it off the Parampara. But that way, but that's like within the Vaishnava to be kind of like, someone has that desire, to be worshipped as God. That's like it's kind of like a shadowy way to do it. Now, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada talks about that Jesus really became one of the famous
Mhm.
through his crucifixion pastime.
Mm.
Prabhupada talks about
Mm.
that's how it grew. Now, we don't want to imitate, because I would think that Jesus would want that when he's thought of, it's more like he's, dancing. And
Dancing or
dancing with
preaching or yeah.
Still, we can see just
Uh-huh.
start, Prabhupada talks about it.
Huh.
So we don't want,
Wow.
yes, we don't want to imitate, like overemphasize the disappearance bits.
Uh-huh.
At the same time, in Prabhupada's situation, it's very, very 100% clear that the facts, the reality, the truth, the disappearance pastime has been buried, has been concealed, has been distorted, lied about. Just that's very clear. And that's supported the I am as good as God agendas.
Uh-huh.
And so there's quotes from Prabhupada that he said, like, Christianity really spread, as crucifixion, okay, we don't want to over-influence this period of time, but just like what we do want to, we do want the truth about all of Prabhupada's pastimes to be done. I'm talking about this because some of you, Malini sent a letter, and things like that, like that. So, so this is important. Yeah. So this is important. It doesn't mean that everyone needs to be part of the service, but we all get to choose what services we do. But yeah. So just like, okay, let's say if everyone was sharing and spreading. Oh, Bhaktivedanta Swami, he had like $50 million. And he got on his private jet plane and he came to Los Angeles and he started the Hare Krishna movement. Would that be okay? Now,
Probably some part of society will think that's a real guru.
fine, but and Krishna could do it then.
Mhm.
And that there's nothing like Krishna could arrange that a pure spirit soul amasses millions of dollars and flies to Los Angeles, and that Krishna could do it then.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Mhm.
It's just that's not what happened.
Yeah.
So it kind of, we feel like that, like there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
It's just not reality. It's not truth. It's not fact. No, actually, Prabhupada was penniless. He had 2 heart attacks on the day. And it's not like Krishna could only do it that way, but that's the way Krishna co-created with his pure devotee.
Mhm.
Just like we want to hear about all of Prabhupada's pastimes. He rose at 1 a.m. to give us his purports that we're reading here.
Mm.
He at 5 years old, he did his first Vachi Yatra,
Mhm.
and we hear about how he chastises his disciples and he has affectionate, joking exchanges with us. We want to hear all the pastimes as it is. So with the disappearance pastime, it's specifically been lied about, concealed, and like that. So it's not just like with the truth about the disappearance pastime of Jesus. It's not like to get really hateful and angry towards those Roman soldiers or towards Jesus or towards Judas, because it has nothing to do with it. It's just to reveal the glories, the inconceivable glories of Jesus more and more. So similarly, it's not about, there's a place for righteous rage, but it's about for revealing for ourselves and the whole world Prabhupada's glories, just like all of the past.
Yeah.
So I just want to make some connections there. And I decided there was an opportunity, so I did. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Yeah, and also it's quite, like it's quite extraordinary
Yeah.
because according to all the doctors, it was absolutely impossible for people, for the soul to be in that body, that for that whatever state the body was in. Of course, it was not a body because a pure devotee doesn't have a body. But in the pastime of Srila Prabhupada, it shows that he wasn't a material body, because according to the state of what was going on, he shouldn't have not been able to continue to translate the Srimad Bhagavatam every single day until he decided, okay, I'm leaving now. And he was done with whatever part of the Srimad Bhagavatam he gave us, and that's perfect too. Like there is no mistake in where Srila Prabhupada ends with the Srimad Bhagavatam, like the 14th chapter of the first canto. That's where Srila Prabhupada ends, giving us the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he did that while on a material platform, it should have been impossible to do that. Like the maintenance of that pastime was nothing material. The maintenance of that pastime was completely 100% purely spiritual. Anyone else like to share? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. I appreciate the class and also the discussion. And I'm feeling inspired to speak more about Srila Prabhupada to others, like to glorify him. And I'm just realizing in this conversation that I have been hesitant because I had so many experiences of people expressing how they don't agree with some, like very, very few statements he makes about women or about, and so I was holding back out of fear that I will meet this discussion. And so I appreciate like there's so much more. And actually in the Srimad Bhagavatam reading group we have, there are mainly women. There's one man, and it's usually like 6 to 8 participants that come. And at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, in many, like I guess like 4 or 5 purports we've read, there were statements by Srila Prabhupada where just one member felt really disturbed by it, and everyone else just, like understood what the message is, what his message is, what his intention is. So I'm noticing how my mind can create so many difficulties where there are not really any. And also, what struck me was when you said that where would we be if where would we be today if Parikshit hadn't ruled the world like 5,000 years ago? And it just struck me how how fast degradation happens. If I look at like the history, the Second World War, how fast people got brainwashed and really thought it's a good thing to kill a Jew. Like fathers who would go out and kill Jews and come home at night and feel really proud. And just how quick this degradation happens. And I just opened my eyes to this, and how powerful also the meeting at Naimisharanya was. That the effects are still here.
Without them, 1,000 years for 1,000 years they were meeting for us. And of course we can expand that to like where will we be if Srila Prabhupada, if Krishna didn't send Srila Prabhupada to us, then that's scary, because it's so directly weak. The cause and effect of what's happened 5,000 years ago, we can conjuncture that this far away, but the cause and effect of Prabhupada boarding the Jaladuta 55 years ago and coming here, that's even more of a scary thought to imagine that Prabhupada will not do that. And then the only alternative would be those bogus schools. Yes. Yes.
And there was one more thing that you mentioned, like in a side sentence, which struck me, like as a coach and giving seminars with spiritual background, I meet so many people who say, yeah, we're like messengers of light and we are here with a special mission for Mother Earth. And and it just, when you said this, that no, actually we're all here because of the laws of nature and we didn't make that choice. I just realized how much suffering is created with this false belief. Like, I'm here with a special mission, and I can relate to it also. I have a part in me that goes, oh yeah, I have some special mission.
I'm special.
And actually, no, it's just our mission is to chant, or my mission is to chant and be happy.
Yes. I'm glad about your increased consciousness and desire to glorify Srila Prabhupada and to make Prabhupada famous, and like knowing that, like it's going to land where it's supposed to land. And those who want to hear that and want to connect with Srila Prabhupada will appreciate, and those who are not supposed to, then anyway, they won't.
Yeah, and I can see that with time, I feel more and more detached so I'll just like help them process their feelings and thoughts, and then not being attached for them to like Srila Prabhupada, even though I want it, but to not be attached to that.
Yeah, to be an instrument, to do your duty, to do what you're responsible. Srila Prabhupada gave you your life, gave you everything. So we are responsible to give that to others. And if others take it or not, it's in between them and Srila Prabhupada and between them and Krishna. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Patrick.
I think it's a quick question because it's just a technical thing, because I read in the teachings of Queen Kunti that Arjuna won. It says that Arjuna won Uttara. So does that mean like he won Uttara for Abhimanyu? Is that how it happened?
Yeah, the story, how it goes. It's story.
Yeah, so.
He did.
Arjuna,
it's exactly that.
Arjuna won Uttara. Arjuna won what? Okay, so basically, the Pandavas were incognito. It was that year they were in hiding, and like Bhima was masquerading as a cook, and Arjuna was a dance teacher. Arjuna was a dance teacher in the palace of the king, and one of the students was the princess Uttara, right? And then I don't remember, but basically, so then Uttara wanted to marry Arjuna, or he won her, but it wasn't proper because she was a disciple, a dance disciple. But Arjuna was like, well, this isn't proper. It's not proper that I marry her because she's like my student. So it's like improper. So then it was, okay, let her marry my son. That's the story from the Mahabharata. Abhimanyu.
You know about that.
Yeah.
So, Parampara Prabhu, did you get your response now?
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Entourage Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.